what's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video game review. And for this video review, we're going to be taking a look at, get this up, Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age for the PS4. Now, I remember playing a little bit of Final Fantasy XII back when the game came out. I think it was about 11 years ago, though. At the time, I wasn't exactly great at RPGs or anything else. It took a lot of practice, and over time I got a little bit better out of it. Some of the stuff was just a little bit confusing back then that I didn't understand and so on. But the game did get a lot of recognition, and it did become sort of a fan favorite from its character designs and from its interesting combat system. However, it also didn't gain a lot of attention, mostly because the game came out in 2006, around the same time the PlayStation 3 came out, so it never got the recognition it deserved. So, 11 years later, Square Enix, following off the success of Final Fantasy 15, which I enjoy, I did a review of that one. If you haven't checked that out, I'll have a link in the description. Decided to re-release Final Fantasy 12 here to the US under the Zodiac Age, a game that was released back on the PlayStation 2, PS2, but only in Japan. So this is the first time we're getting it over here. And so, how does it play? Well, even though I may have had a hard time when I played it back in 2006, my opinion has somewhat changed about it, and I actually enjoy it more than I originally thought. So why don't we get started with some of the pros and cons in the game. Alright, we'll start first with the pros, and the first one I have to say is, visually speaking, the game looks good. I mean, it looks beautiful. I love the visuals and the art style they have to the game, which it ties into also the next pro, which is the story itself. Everything about the visual and the story definitely has sort of a Star Wars feel to it. I really like that in a way. In fact, you could argue that Vaughn's kind of like, in a way, like Luke Skywalker, where Barthur, if I'm saying his name correctly, and Fran, or like Barthur's like Han Solo and Fran's like Chewbacca. Only different is, she doesn't have like the belt. She's not as hairy as Chewbacca is. So, or some have dubbed her like the sexy Chewbacca and so on. But either way, the point is though, I like sort of a bit of that Star Wars feel to the game from both the visuals and the story as well. The next thing I want to talk about is that they've added some new features for the game, which is the Zodiac job system, which makes signing certain jobs to certain characters, like you could sign a mage who could perform white magic. Keep in mind, once you pick or a battle mage or anything like that, keep in mind that by doing that job's permanent, although later on you could sort of select a secondary job as well. So I definitely like the Zodiac job system. Speed mode is sort of, although it looks a little hilarious, it's fun, which it can also be helpful because you could go through the map very quickly without having to constantly you know how sometimes it takes long to maybe get from one area to another. This sort of helps though, even though there's no you could warp to another point in the map or anything. You could do that. Or let me say, technically you could do that, but you need sort of like a teleportation stone in order to do that. So it's not like how it is, say, like in, I don't know, like the Assassin's Creed games were like that. So, but either way, speed mode is interesting. There's also New Game Plus, which is also nice. And now you have the ability to buy the gambit system, or pretty much every gambit system early on, so that way it could come in handy if you had like if you're going up against like a tougher boss or anything like that. Which brings me to my final pro that I like is the gambit system, though. I remember at first I hated it when they originally came out 11 years ago, or I just really didn't have a better understanding of it. But now I actually like it more than I did. I mean, I like the idea that you can assign certain things to your other party members if you're not controlling them. Like, for example, as I mentioned about the Zodiac job system, I have one of my characters as a mage. I have that person cure any other character if their health falls like at 70%, although you could buy other gambits where you could like set it like at maybe like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever works for you the best. So you can do that to like give them like a potion if they fall a certain health, or like if they know a spell to cure like blind or sleep or anything like that. They could perform that right away. You could set it up in any orders, which is the priority one, which is not. So I like the gambit system. I really do enjoy it now than I did when the game came out back 11 years ago. So overall, I love the gambit system. So yeah, on that one. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we will get to the cons of Final Fantasy XII that I have with it, plus my thoughts on the movie Dunkirk, which I saw just today, though. So we'll take a bit of a break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our review of Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age for the PS4. And now that I gave you the parts of the pros, why don't I start with the cons? And there's only a couple minor cons I could think of, though, alright? The first one is sort of the combat, and I will say I don't entirely hate the combat in the game, though. I mean, like I said, I like the gambit system, and also the combat isn't terrible, but I'll be honest with you, I prefer more like the action RPG kind of route. So while the combat in Final Fantasy XII is certainly good and all, I just prefer the ones from Final Fantasy 15 and the Kingdom Hearts series more than I do with the 12. Again, I don't hate the gambit system. I definitely like the idea. I like the game, enjoy the gambit system. But as far as the combat part, again, I prefer 15 in Kingdom Hearts though over 12. But again, that's based on people's preferences. So, but that's my preference though. The next thing I will say is basically is that despite this being additional stuff that they added, some of the stuff like the gambit system and the job system can still be a bit confusing. I mean, I remember playing it the first time around, it was a little bit confusing then. I have a better understanding of it now, but I can see for those who've never played before, some of the stuff may be a bit confusing. There is some tutorial, but it's kind of iffy, at least from my view. So there's sort of a bit of a learning curve with the game, though, especially the gambit system and the job system in the game. So some of the stuff in 12, I will say overall, can be a bit confusing. And last but not least, I will say, is sort of the graphics and the visuals. Now, I mentioned in the pros that the game looks like visually impressive, has sort of like a Star Wars feel to it. Plus, I forgot to mention it runs at 1080p and so on. So the visuals aren't terrible or awful or anything like that, but they certainly do show a little bit of its age, though. So, I mean, the game runs at 1080p, it looks impressive, but you can still see to some degree the visuals do feel a little bit dated, though. But in this case, this game is sort of one of those, like, gameplay is more important than graphics, or art style is important, and that's certainly what makes up for the visuals being a little bit dated, is the beautiful art style in the game. Overall, I have to say, Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age is still a fun game, though, alright? It can be a little bit confusing, especially with the whole combat and the job system, and for those who went from playing Final Fantasy, especially the combat, for those who went from playing Final Fantasy 15 to this, may be a little bit surprised of how the combat is set up, though, but it's still a fun and enjoyable game, and I'm glad it's getting a second chance, though. I mean, like I said, it was released at the worst time. It was released around when the PS3 was just came out, so I'm glad the game is getting a second chance. Hopefully it will find an audience this time around, and here's to hoping that the game does very well. Okay, before I end this video review, I do want to give you my thoughts on the movie Dunkirk, which I just came and saw at the theaters, and I will have to say, the movie is good. For those who are not familiar of it, the movie is basically when the British forces were retreating following the fall of France, that arrived around the beaches of Dunkirk to get off the beach and get back to England to while the Nazi forces were advancing towards them. I love the fact that the movie is there is some dialogue, but most of the movie is quiet, and a lot of the characters don't speak, but you can tell by their body language. Two, I like the fact that they show from different perspective on land near the beaches of Dunkirk, on sea where it has some of the civilian boats go out of their way to rescue these British soldiers, and on air where some of the British Air Force was fighting off the German air forces that were picking off the British soldiers that were retreating following the fall of France. Though you also meet some of the French soldiers as well. So, and as someone who likes to study World War II, I really did enjoy this film. Was a really good movie. I definitely would recommend it though, and I could see this up for an Academy Award. So hopefully it does well. So, but overall, I would say go see Dunkirk. It is a really, really good movie. Okay, this concludes my review of Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age, for the PS4, and my thoughts on the movie Dunkirk. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours, though? Have you picked up Final Fantasy XII yet? Have you not picked it up? Do you like some of the changes they made, like the Zodiac job system, New Game Plus, the speed mode, and so on? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Did you hate the gambit system when it came out originally for Final Fantasy XII, or did you don't hate it? You didn't hate it back then, you don't hate it now. And what about the movie Dunkirk? Did you see it in theaters? Did you like it? Did you hate it though? Do you agree with this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a different opinion though? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and of course, if you wish, you can feel free to donate to my channel. It can either be through PayPal me or Patreon. Again, the link is in the description of this video below. And if you want to see some gameplay footage of Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age, I will put a link in the description of this video, and you can check it out there. It's evening in Southern California, so I'll be getting ready for bed soon, and I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, for Southern California, I wish you all a good evening. Bye!